Right, so some solutions for percentages problems. So we'll start off, the question 1 asks us to write 8 out of 25 as a percentage. Now, if this was if this was a calculator problem, then I would just use my knowledge that this line means divide, and I would type 8 divided by 25 into the calculator. This, however, is definitely a non-calculator one, and the reason I can say that is because the bottom number, 25, goes into 100. And that means it's quite easy to find the percentage without a calculator. So 25 times 4 makes 100, and 8 times 4 makes 32, which means it's 32%. Write 23% as a fraction, question 2. This is just the opposite way round. 23% as a fraction is 23 out of 100. Now, question number 3. This is a bit harder, this is. Courtney gets 17 out of 20. Write this score as a percentage. So when you see 17 out of 20, you need to think of your fraction notation, 17 out of 20. And write it down. Don't try and keep it in your head, write it down. Now, this is just like the question above. This isn't a percentage because it's not out of 100. So let's make it out of 100. 20 is going to be times 5, isn't it? So 17 times 5. So that's going to be 170 halved, which is 85, I think. Sounds about right. 85. Okay, so that's question number 3. Now, question number 4. Harley buys a PC. Taking notes, Harley? Because she can't watch the Maths Watch DVD on her Mac. That's because PCs are better. The normal price of the PC is 400 quid, but she manages to get a 13% discount. Work out 13% of... Now, do you know what? I think this is clearly an error here, so I'm just going to do two things. First of all, it seems to me that should be 400. Please forgive me for sending you out a dodgy problem. However, for those of you that did work out 13% of 7,200, the answer is 936. But we're not. We're going to do 13% of 400 because that's clearly what the problem says it's about. Now, to work out 13%, well, first of all, we start with 100% is 400, which means that 10% is 40, 1% is 4, and those things there I can use to make up 13% because 13% is a 10%, so there's a 10%, and 3 1%, so 1, 2, 3. And it happens that we know what each of these is because 10% is 40, so it's 40 plus, and 1% is 4, so 4, and another 1%, and another 1%, which makes 52. So the discount is £52. Now, part 2. Work out how much Harley pays for the PC. Well, the PC cost £400, and then there's a discount, and discount is telling you to take away. So we take away the 13%, but 13% is £52, so we take away the £52, leaving us with £348. 348, and that will get you a PC which will let you play Maths Watch. Question 5. Work out 28% of 85,000. Again, looks horrible perhaps, but not as bad as it sounds. So we just start off with 100% is 85,000. So 10% is 8,500. Notice I've just divided it by 10 to find 10%. 1% is 850. And do you know, I'm going to go for 5% as well. 5% is half of 10%, so that's going to be 4,250. I've just halved this number here to get this number. Now, this is pretty much all the ones you need for most percentages, so I should be able to make 28% up with those. So it's 2 10%, that seems the easy bit. And then how do I get the 8%? Well, I can do a 5%, that gets me to 25%, and then 3 times 1%. So what are those numbers? Well, 10% was 8,500, 5% was 4,250, and 3 times 1% is 3 times 850. And if you add those up, 8,500 plus 8,500 plus 4,250 plus 3 times 850, you get the grand total of 23,800. There we go. And that's question 5. Question 6. We've all seen exam questions like this. Not very nice looking. There are 200 fish in a net. 35% are delicious. 2/5 are poisonous. The rest taste disgusting. Work out how many fish taste disgusting. Right. So each of these sentences normally means we can do something. So what we've got here is we actually know how many fish there are, so I'm going to work out 35% of 200. So 35% of 200. And I know it's of 200 because it's 35% of the fish, and there are 200 fish. So we do that just like we did before. So 100% is 200. 10% is 20, and 5% is 10, because that's half of 10%. And I'm not going to bother with anything else because I can see I can make 35 out of 10s and 5s. So 35% is 3 lots of 10% plus a 5%. So that's 3 lots of, now 10% was 20, so it's 3 lots of 20, and 5% is a 10, so that's 3 20, so 60, add 10 is 70. So that is 70, and there would be a mark there. 2/5 of the fish are poisonous. So how do we do? Well, we're going to work out 2/5 of, and often people get confused here. What they say, what's it of? Do I do it out of the 70 or do I do it out of the 130 that are left? Well, it's 2/5 of the fish. So there were 200 fish, so it's 2/5 of 200. Now, 2/5 of a number. We're going to divide that number into 5 and times it by 2. So it's 200 divided by 5, which is 40. So that's 1/5, that is. But we don't want 1/5, we want 2/5. So we take our 40 and we double it, which gives us 80, and that's 2/5. So that's 80. The rest of the fish taste disgusting. Okay, well we've got 70 and 80. So 70 and 80 make 150. So that means that we've got 50 fish left over, 50 disgusting fish. And there we go. Now, the challenge question. Bit of a beast, this one. Jake wants to work out how much tax he needs to pay. Last year he earned £18,000. That's a reasonable amount of money. Certainly more money than most of you probably earn at the moment, but hopefully you might find yourself earning more one day. He does not pay income tax on the first £6,475. So if we take the £18,000 and we subtract the 6,475, we're left with, so 18,000 minus 6,475, we're left with 11525. So this money here, this 6475, this is called the personal allowance. And you can earn anything up to there without paying any tax, although it's gone up a bit now. But as soon as you go over that, the money that goes over that, you pay tax on. So he's going to pay tax on this much money. This is his taxable income. Now he pays a tax of 20 pence for each pound he earned above this much money. So 20 pence in a pound, that's 20%, that is. But we can work that out from here. So he's worked this many pounds, so it's 11525 times 20 pence, which gives us 230500. But don't panic, because this was pence, so this is pence, and we know there's 100 pence in a pound, so we divide it by 100 and then we're left with 2305 pounds. That's pounds as well. So let's just write down what he's got. He earned 18 grand. He was taxed 2,305 on 11,525 of it. So this is his tax here, and it says he pays the tax in 2 equal half-yearly instalments. So we basically chop it into 2. So 2305 divided by 2. 23005 divided by 2 gives us 1152.5. Notice I haven't actually read the question yet. I've just looked at the information here, and this is sometimes a good thing to do if you're at all confused about what to do. Just read through it and see what can you work out, because almost certainly in an exam that's what they want you to work out. Now, how much income tax does Imran? Who the heck's Imran? It's got to be Jake, hasn't it? Otherwise, this is a non-question. Pay in his first half-yearly instalment. Okay, well, we worked that out. It's £1,152.50. That's his half-yearly instalment. Jake wants to know what percentage of his earnings he pays in tax. Calculate the income tax Jake has to pay as a percentage of his earnings last year. Okay, so let's see, we need to know what his earnings were and what his tax was. So earnings, that was £18,000, and his tax was £2,305. £2,305. Now, this is the most difficult sort of question, so let's just make it really clear. So we've got income tax as a percentage of earnings. So income tax, there's income tax. Earnings, there's earnings. In fact, let's make that a bit prettier. There we go. So we've got our 2 bits of information. We've got the income tax here, and we've got earnings there, and now it's this percentage of. So percentage of, start with as a fraction. So income tax is 2305 out of £18,000. And I wouldn't try and do anything clever with that other than to use a calculator. The line means divide, hopefully you know that. And if you type that in, so 2305 divided by 18,000, you end up with 0.12805 recurring. This is far too much for us. I mean, we want a percentage. So the percentage, we're going to round it to here, so 0.13, which is 13%. So there you go, he pays 13% tax. Now, you might say, why is that? Because 20 pence in the pound, that's 20%, because it's 20 out of 100 pence. Well, the reason it's not 20% overall is because he doesn't pay tax on this first part of his income, on his personal allowance. So that means that he pays overall less than 20%, even though he's paying 20% on his taxable income. This is actually pretty much how it works, so it's quite an interesting thing to know, especially if any of you are going to end up self-employed. You have to actually work a lot of this stuff out yourself and get it right, or they'll fine you. Hope you found it interesting, and see you when you're back at school.